Ladies and gentlemen, solitude builds strength because it strips away everything that is unnecessary and forces you to meet yourself face to face. When you are surrounded by people, you can lean on their voices, their opinions, their validation. But when you are alone, there is no one to tell you what you want to hear, no one to cushion your weaknesses, no one to distract you from the truth. In that space, you learn how much weight you can carry. You discover how to silence doubt without anyone else's reassurance. You learn discipline because no one is there to hold you accountable but you. Strength is not built when the crowd is cheering. It is built when no one is watching, and you still choose to push forward. When you sit with yourself in solitude, your thoughts come louder, and at first they might overwhelm you. You hear every insecurity, every mistake, every fear echoing in your mind. That is why most people run from being alone. They drown themselves in noise to escape their own reflection. But those who choose to stay, those who sit in that storm until the waves calm, they come out stronger. They learn to separate what is real from what is imagined. They learn to confront their pain instead of burying it. That confrontation is where strength is born, because you cannot conquer the world if you have not conquered yourself. Solitude also teaches you resilience. When you are alone, you realize how many excuses you used to make, how often you relied on others to motivate you. Now it's just you and the choice to rise or to quit. And when you rise in solitude, when you choose to keep going without applause, that strength becomes unshakable. No critic can break you because you have already faced your own worst critic. No rejection can crush you because you have already stood in silence without anyone to lift you up. In solitude, your focus sharpens. Distractions fall away because there is no performance for anyone else. You work for yourself, you fight for yourself, you grow for yourself. That inner focus builds a strength that is rooted, not borrowed. And rooted strength lasts. It holds when life shakes you. It holds when people leave. It holds when everything outside of you collapses. Strength built in solitude is also freedom. You stop depending on others for courage or direction. You stop begging for validation to move forward. You begin to trust your own instincts, your own wisdom, your own faith. That independence is power because people can walk away, applause can fade, opportunities can disappear, but the strength you built in solitude stays with you. It walks with you into every battle. It whispers to you when fear shouts. It carries you when no one else can. Peace comes from within, not from the noise of the world or the approval of others. Too often people chase peace like it is a destination, believing it can be found in money, in relationships, in success, or in recognition. They move from one thing to the next, always expecting the outside to fill the inside. But the cycle never ends because what comes from outside is temporary. Real peace does not depend on circumstances. Real peace is built when you decide that your mind, your spirit, and your heart will not be controlled by what is happening around you. When storms come, people panic because they think the storm is the problem. The truth is the storm outside only has power if it creates a storm inside. Peace from within means you can walk through chaos and still remain calm. It means you do not let every insult, every rejection, every disappointment shake your foundation. It means you have trained yourself to breathe, to trust, to stand firm even when nothing looks certain. That kind of peace cannot be bought, it cannot be given. It has to be cultivated by sitting with yourself and choosing to anchor your mind instead of letting it drift. Peace from within requires silence. It requires moments where you shut off the world, step away from constant voices, and listen to your own. It is in that silence that you begin to recognize what really matters and what doesn't. You realize how much energy you waste chasing things that add nothing to your soul. You see how quickly emotions can rise and fade, and you learn not to be ruled by them. With practice, you stop reacting to everything. You stop letting every small problem turn into a battle. Instead, you start carrying a quiet strength that calms situations rather than fuels them. This inner peace also means accepting yourself. So many people are at war within because they refuse to face who they are. They judge themselves constantly, compare themselves endlessly, and carry guilt for things long gone. When you cannot forgive yourself, you cannot have peace. When you keep measuring yourself by someone else's yardstick, you cannot have peace. It begins when you acknowledge your flaws but refuse to let them define you, when you honor your growth instead of your mistakes, when you give yourself permission to be human. Acceptance unlocks a stillness that nothing external can break. Peace from within is not weakness, it is strength under control. Anyone can lose their temper, anyone can break under pressure, anyone can lash out when life gets hard. But the person who has trained their spirit to remain steady is the one who carries true power. They are not easily manipulated because they are not desperate for approval. They are not easily broken because they are not built on temporary foundations. They are not easily distracted because they have learned to keep their eyes on what truly matters. Loneliness is a choice. Solitude is power. People confuse the two because they both look the same from the outside. You can be sitting in an empty room and feel abandoned, or you can be sitting in that same room and feel unstoppable. Loneliness comes when you believe you are missing something, when you depend on someone else to complete you and they are not there. Solitude, on the other hand, is when you realize you are already whole and you choose to step back in order to grow, to listen, to build. The difference is not in the environment. The difference is in the mindset. Loneliness is heavy. It makes you feel like you are less, like you are forgotten, like you are unworthy of connection. That is why it drains people. That is why it pushes them into desperation, because they are looking outward for what they should be finding inward. When you shift that mindset, when you stop seeing the absence of people as emptiness and start seeing it as opportunity, the weight lifts. Suddenly the same silence that once felt unbearable becomes sacred. That space becomes where you study yourself, sharpen your skills, and discover your voice without interruption. Solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. It prepares you to handle the moments when no one else understands your vision. It prepares you to walk into rooms where no one claps for you and still stand tall. It prepares you to carry dreams bigger than the approval of others. That kind of preparation turns solitude into a gift because it teaches you independence. It shows you that you can rely on your own spirit, your own strength, your own wisdom, without constantly depending on someone to hold your hand. That realization is power. In solitude, you also build clarity. The world is filled with noise, with opinions, with voices trying to tell you who to be and how to live. If you never step away, you can lose yourself in that flood. But when you embrace solitude, you filter out the noise. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You understand what drives you, what matters to you, what path you should walk. Clarity is power, because a person who knows their direction cannot be easily swayed. They do not waste time chasing every distraction. They do not beg for guidance from everyone else, because they have already found their compass within. Choosing solitude over loneliness also builds confidence. Once you learn that being alone does not make you incomplete, you carry yourself differently. You no longer cling to toxic company just to fill space. You no longer lower your standards just to avoid silence. You understand that the right people add value but are not the source of your value. That shift makes you stronger in relationships, stronger in decision making, stronger in every area of life. The same room that once felt like a cage now feels like freedom, because you have chosen to see solitude as empowerment instead of isolation. Own your company before you seek others, because the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. Too many people rush to fill the silence with anyone who will listen, anyone who will stay, anyone who will distract them from facing themselves. But if you do not know how to stand with yourself, you will always depend on others to make you feel whole. That dependence leads to compromise, to settling, to accepting less than you deserve because you are afraid of being alone. When you learn to own your company, you stop chasing and start attracting, because your value no longer hangs on someone else's presence. Owning your company means being comfortable in your own skin. It means not needing constant reassurance, not needing constant noise, not needing constant validation. When you are comfortable with yourself, you do not panic when people leave, you do not beg for attention, you do not feel the need to pretend to be someone else. You walk in authenticity because you know who you are and you accept it. That authenticity is magnetic. People trust those who are real, and being real begins with being real with yourself. It also means respecting your own time. When you own your company, you learn to value your hours, your energy, your focus. You do not waste them on meaningless distractions or people who do not add value. You treat your time as precious because you understand you are worthy of investing in. Whether it is reading, creating, exercising, or simply resting, you give yourself permission to grow without feeling guilty. That discipline builds strength, and that strength follows you into every interaction you have with others. Owning your company is also about setting standards. When you know your worth, you stop entertaining relationships that drain you. You stop tolerating disrespect, dishonesty, and half-efforts. You stop allowing anyone to treat you as less than you treat yourself. Because you know what you give to yourself, you expect no less from others. That kind of standard is not arrogance, it is self-respect. And people who respect themselves naturally command respect from the world around them. It is in the moments of solitude that you discover what you truly like, what you truly need, and what you truly stand for. When you own your company, you know how to enjoy your own presence. You can laugh alone, work alone, think alone, and still feel fulfilled. That fulfillment means that when others do come into your life, you share with them out of abundance, not out of desperation. You are not asking them to complete you, you are inviting them to grow with you. That difference transforms connections because healthy relationships are built between whole people, not broken halves searching for completion.